Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. Right before you is the pastor, Dwayne Dawkins. Now, Pastor Dawkins made some big news earlier in the year because if you can recall, he was involved in a sex scandal. And it pretty much blew the lid off this whole undercover life that he had on the side. Now, he is making some news within the past couple of days because he has opened up about this scandal. And he's in a church where he speaks candidly as to the events that contributed to his downfall. Now, I want you to hear what he says out of his own mouth.
Dwayne Dawkins. Blessings to everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to be in company with so many people who are willing to be vulnerable and to share. Mine is probably the most recent, I think, I'm not sure, but I had connected with an individual of the same gender, and I've had throughout my childhood, up until even this moment, dealing with bisexual tendencies, anointed, called of God, and all of that, but did not have an opportunity to really dig into those issues and unpack them. No excuse to it, just what it is. I connected with an individual. It's what they call a sneaky link.
All right.
Yeah. And in that moment, he recorded it. I was aware of the recording. Prior to it was asked if he could record, and I thought it would be for his personal pleasure, so to speak. Again, I preface this all by saying it was not right. It was wrong, but that's where I was in that moment. I had to acknowledge where I was. Later on that same day, he posted it. He's a content creator. So this is someone who does this as their main, or one of their sources of income or whatnot. I called him immediately when I was made aware of it and said, "Why did you do that? You know, please take it down. I didn't give consent for that, etc." He hung up on me. I called back and he had blocked me. That was the last I'd ever heard from him. That evening, you can imagine, I did not sleep. I have a wife and 3 beautiful sons. I pastor a church in South Florida for 14 years at that point. And family, loved ones, all of that. So the weight of that shame sat on me. For the first time ever in my life, I pulled out my life insurance policy. And while church folk laughed at it, while friends distanced from me, I contemplating getting rid of myself. This is the first time I'm saying much of this openly at all, so bear with me if I'm a little shaky about it.
This is good. Thank you. This is powerful.
At the end of that night, I wrestled and I said, well, I thought of my sons. And I said, you know, well, do they live with the shame of having a father who's infidelity of that nature? Because, you know, there's usually grace for heterosexual falls. But when it comes to the same gender, homosexual, what does the scripture say? You can fall 7 times, get up. But most folks have their preferences to how you're allowed to fall.
Yeah. This is good.
And I fell in a way that most folks don't think you can come back from.
Yeah.
Whether it's due to it being sin, which, by the way, my theology has not changed. I still believe in what I believe in, which is the fundamental conservative interpretation of the Bible. But I do believe that the approach to my situation and situations like it needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Because it's more of it than we think.
Yeah.
That night, I decided I'm going to have to live for my sons,
Wow.
for nobody else.
Wow.
You know, a dead dad or bisexual struggling dad.
Yeah.
Which one? I decided to live.
Wow.
At least for that day.
Thank you. Come on, give God praise for that, church.
And now I'm still in the process of healing. I have gone through maybe 2-3 therapists. My spiritual leadership has been involved, and very few of the people I pastored have actually, been in touch with me. But I understand that. We'll get into that, I guess, later. I understand the different responses from different people. But now I live here in Atlanta, and I am teaching back in the classroom, which was my original profession, and doing some other things in terms of side hustles, as they would say, trying to make up the difference from going from full-time ministry of a growing church to now being the poster boy for what goes wrong when you think you're secure and you're not.
That's good.
Okay, so you heard that. Now, there is a lot to unpack here because it's a combination of being sort of triumphant in a way that he's admitting to his misdeeds. Now, let me tell you why I call them misdeeds. Not because of the behavior or the nature of it being the same sex. It's because of the hypocrisy of him condemning homosexuality. And with that condemnation of possibly putting young men at risk. And not only putting them at risk, he's putting them at risk of jobs. People can have a perception if they are in a position to hire someone. He's putting them at risk of housing, rental. There's just a lot of other things besides bodily harm. He's putting them at risk of stares. The kind of microaggression. So basically, with that style of preaching that he did, he can contribute to people having low self-esteem, suicidal tendencies, and overall just making someone's life very difficult. And the hypocrisy also comes in too, is that his wife didn't know about it. The congregation didn't know about it. The triumphant part would be, at least he's acknowledging. That's the big step right there. Acknowledging the behavior. He's not trying to run away from it. He's confronting it head on. But here's the problem. I still believe that he is in denial about certain things because he calls it bisexuality. And while I do believe that bisexuality does exist, I do believe that. I don't believe he's one. I do not believe that you can apply that to what happened with him. He called that a bisexual incident. No, that was a homosexual incident. There was no female in the room. If it was a male and a female in the room and there was sex between them, then it would be bisexual behavior or bisexual indiscretion. But that was another male in the room. There was no females around. So that was a homosexual incident. And he calls himself a bisexual. Really? Here's the problem with that. I know people down in Florida, and I've heard, I'm going to say allegedly, that the sneaky link that he used, very clever term by the way, that he has been doing this for the past 10 years. He has a 10-year history of doing that. So with these sneaky links that he's saying, these hookups and using these apps, I would like to know, have you ever fooled around with a female? If you're bisexual. Because if you're bisexual, that's going to imply that you prefer men as well as women. You have equal attraction to both if you're bisexual. In my opinion, Dwayne is more male leaning. He's more gay leaning. So that would make you gay. And he says that he still believes in the conservative teachings of the Bible. So I guess you still believe that homosexuality is a sin. Okay, you're entitled to your beliefs. And you made a claim that basically you're in therapy. You've seen three different therapists. Is that to try to cure yourself, so to speak, or to help deal with how the fallout from that? I'm just curious. Now, this type of behavior that these men are exhibiting is so unfortunate because you end up hurting a lot of people. You end up turning the life of loved ones upside down for the simple fact that you just cannot be true to yourself and you cannot be true to who you are. Now, this was a wife who had a life in Florida. She had a community in Florida. She had a job in Florida. And it's really a shame that that had to be uprooted because men like him have to lie. They have to go sneaking around when they should just be true to themselves up front. But I do understand the difficulty when you have been indoctrinated into a religion or to a religious practice that tells you that part of your sexuality is wrong. It's sinful. God's frown upon it. And you can possibly be condemned. So I can see why he would try to fight such a thing and be in denial and keep it a secret. Now, this is Al Reynolds with Star Jones. This is another one who claims he's bisexual. Now, once again, I do believe that these men are using the term bisexual because it's a softer blow than being homosexual. There's more of a stigma attached to being a homosexual gay male than it is a bisexual male. And I do believe that there is some internal uncomfortability among these men because they feel that because there is a part of them that is still attracted to women, that maybe it makes them better, maybe it makes them more normal, maybe it makes them blend in with society better, maybe it takes off some pressure. But these men are gay. They're not no bisexual. And not denying bisexuality. I think it's very rare. I think it's extremely rare for a person to be attracted to both equally. That's what I would consider bisexuality. These men, to me, are more gay leaning. And they are capable of having relations with women. But I do think that it's not what they prefer. If there was no religion involved, no societal stigma involved, who do you think they will choose? And remember this guy right here, former Florida governor candidate Andrew Gillum. Remember that incident that he was caught in a hotel with this escort? He was all drugged out, inebriated, naked in his own vomit. Here's another guy who's making a claim that he's bisexual. Guys, stop. Just stop it. You're gay. Just fucking deal with it. I mean, you hurt too many people. Okay, Andrew Gillum. Okay, you have been known, I guess, to pick up male escorts. How many female escorts have you picked up? How many women have you been caught in a hotel room with? And it's strange how these men, too, they're making a claim to be bisexual, but there's no babies left behind out of their marriages. If you were truly bisexual, I would have think that one of these men would at least have a love child somewhere. Without a love child somewhere, that tells me that you primarily have been dealing with men. Now, this is Jonathan Plummer. He was married to Terry McMillan. how Stella got her grooves back off there. He admitted, he came clean and stated that during the whole time of their marriage that he was gay. And I believe that this was a situation where he wanted that green card or citizenship, and she was a way to get that. But she was very shocked and she was very surprised because she stated he had no problem satisfying her. No problem knocking her boots off in the bedroom. See, this is the point right here. Many gay men can do that. Many gay men do not have a problem with sexing a woman down. They don't have a problem getting it up with a woman. I think this is where a lot of women make a mistake. She thinks that, well, he cannot be gay because we just did the deed. No, ladies, that's false. That's false. That's false. These men right here are capable of bisexual activity. Now, notice I said activity. There's a difference between being bisexual and bisexual activity. All of these men here, at least Jonathan does admit that he's gay. These men are gay leaning. However, they're still capable of doing a female, but that's not what they prefer. This is the reason why the vast majority of them, if you look at their background, most of their dealings have been with men and not with women. And that should tell you a lot. And I just think that the emotional toll on women is really devastating. And I think that all the years that have been wasted. But women can combat this. What they need to do to kind of open their eyes, get gay friends. You need to have gay buddies and introduce these men to them. And when these gay buddies tell you, because they will be able to pick it up with their gaydar, when they tell you that this guy is suspect, that he's gay, you need to listen to him. Do not go into a situation and thinking that, oh, you can change someone once the truth is revealed to you. Get gay friends, introduce the guy who you're dating to your gay friends, and listen to what your gay friends are telling you. But the situation right here, I mean, look at him. How could she have not known? It's kind of just obvious. See, I think that she's older than him, and women have that nurturing quality, and they think that they can kind of build a guy. I'm going to build him and make him whatever. But what's going to happen is that you're going to have years wasted. And in the end, like Terry McMillan, who went off on Jonathan with the F-bomb, derogatory word for a gay man, you become very bitter and very angry. Then you'll find yourself needing psychologists to deal with these issues of this bitterness and anger. Here's Jonathan years later, finally living his truth rather. He had the proof of his truth, you can say, but living his truth. An American citizen. By the way, with the citizenship, I mean, isn't there something, I'm not saying this with Jonathan, but if you found out fraud, that he used you for a green card or for citizenship, shouldn't you be able to go to a consulate or something like that and use that against someone? I'm just curious about that. But here he is on a dating scene. This was years ago, about 10 years ago. Finally living his truth. And here he is recently with his partner of today. Seemed to be content. But it's really a shame that you had to use someone along the way in order to get here. And that's not a good idea. It really isn't, because karma is a bee. But going on back to this pastor here, you should have known. Biggest mistake that you could have made was allowing this OnlyFans guy to tape you. That was extremely naive. And that naivete tells me that he was definitely not living in the gay community. He was just kind of dabbling in there for sexual pleasure. But allowing someone to tape you? Come on, bro. That is just, a foolish move right there. And apparently, I'm not sure if you really knew this guy, but when you called him, he didn't take your phone calls and eventually had you blocked. Wow. And then you made a claim that basically with this OnlyFans guy, let's be honest, this is not the only one. It was not the first time. It wasn't the second time that this was done. It wasn't the third time. So with this trail of men, why are you still making claims to being bisexual? That's just kind of puzzling with there. It just shows that he's still very much in denial about himself. But the good thing with him is that he's making progress. He's admitting it, public confession. Usually what tends to happen with his public confession, he's admitting it, and eventually, watch this, he's going to come to the realization that he's a gay man. Sometimes accepting yourself as being gay, bisexuality is kind of like in the pathway to full-blown gaydom. And this is the stage where he's at the moment. But good thing that he didn't take his life. Good thing that he is here for his children. Because without a father, and particularly going that way out through suicide, that would have been even more trauma for the children. This here, at least he's still around, as he says, as a bisexual man. He said that. At least he can still be here to contribute to the life of his boys. And by the way, did you catch that? He said that he still has a wife. He did not say my ex-wife, or he did not say anything about them separating or being divorced. He's still stating that he has a wife. So since she's a Christian and she believes in Jesus Christ, all this power of forgiveness, love, God can change you, maybe she's going to hang in there. But to be honest with you, I think that would be a mistake. I really do. I think that should have been a wake-up call. And she should really know that if he has a history of doing this without telling her, putting her health at risk, that should tell you something about him. When I say that, as to how strong these urges are. And it's too bad that he couldn't just accept himself as a gay pastor, a gay Christian. But as he's stating, though, he believes in the conservative view of the Bible, which does condemn or does not condone homosexual activity or the LGBTQ plus lifestyle. So hopefully he'll work this out within himself and come to a truth, a realization, and a conclusion, and not hurt anyone else like he did his wife, his congregation, his immediate family. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Sin Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you all beyond and through.